October 14, 1943, 25,000 feet above Schweinfurt, Germany. Major Ingrid Kellner's hands trembled as she watched her entire squadron disappear beneath the guns of aircraft that weren't supposed to exist. The Americans had escort fighters with the range of bombers but the agility of interceptors. For 3 years, Luftwaffe intelligence had assured her this was impossible. Yet here, watching her wingman's Messerschmitt spiring toward Earth in flames, Kellner realized that everything the Reich had told her about American aviation was a lie. What none of them knew was that this moment marked the beginning of the most devastating aerial massacre in German history. A systematic destruction of the Luftwaffe that would see 4,950 of their finest aircraft torn from the sky by a fighter plane German engineers had declared aerodynamically impossible. The autumn rain drummed against the windows of Luftwaffe headquarters in Wild Park West, as Oberstleutnant Greta von Richter studied the intelligence reports spread across her mahogany desk. As chief analyst for Luftwaffe Technical Intelligence, she had spent the morning of September 15, 1943, reviewing captured American aircraft specifications with growing satisfaction. Every document confirmed what German aviation experts had believed for 3 years. American fighter design was fundamentally flawed. "Herr General," she said, looking up at General Major Friedrich Stumpf as he entered her office, "the latest assessments from our test pilots at Rechlin confirm our previous conclusions. The Americans continue to build flying trucks, not fighters." Stumpf, commander of Luftflotte Reich, nodded approvingly as he examined the technical drawings of the captured P-47 Thunderbolt. The aircraft's massive radial engine and thick wings seemed to mock every principle of German aerodynamic philosophy. 7 tons empty weight, he muttered, shaking his head. Our FW-190 achieves superior performance at half that mass. American engineering lacks the precision that comes from true understanding of flight. Von Richter pulled out a leather-bound folder marked Streng Geheim, top secret. Inside were detailed analysis reports from Hauptmann Elisabeth Hoffmann, one of Germany's most experienced test pilots, who had personally flown every captured American aircraft at the secret evaluation facility near Rostock. Hoffmann's conclusions are definitive, Herr General. American fighters are designed by engineers who understand mass production, but not aerial combat. The report, typed on official Reich Air Ministry letterhead, bore Hoffmann's precise signature beneath her devastating assessment. After extensive flight testing of the P-40 Warhawk, P-39 Airacobra, and P-47 Thunderbolt, I conclude that American fighter philosophy prioritizes pilot survival over combat effectiveness. Heavy armor, robust construction, and defensive armament create aircraft that can absorb damage but cannot deliver victory. German fighters are designed to kill. American fighters are designed to protect their pilots while they learn to die more slowly. This wasn't the opinion of a single pilot. The institutional contempt for American aviation ran through every level of the Luftwaffe hierarchy. From mechanics to marshals, in the prestigious fighter schools at Wernichen and Salzwedel, instructors taught that American aircraft represented the inevitable result of democratic engineering. Committees designing compromises that satisfied no one while excelling at nothing. Oberleutnant Marguerite Barkhorn, head instructor at the Advanced Fighter School in Zerbst, had incorporated anti-American technical analysis into her standard curriculum. Her students, the elite pilots destined for the Reich's defense squadrons, learned to identify American fighters by their characteristic flaws. The P-40's Allison engine loses 30% power above 15,000 feet, she would lecture, pointing to performance charts that showed the Warhawk's limitations. The P-39's mid-engine configuration makes it unstable in high-speed maneuvers. The P-47 climbs like a pregnant cow and turns like a freight train. These assessments weren't based on prejudice. They reflected genuine combat experience. Major Rosemary Galland, sister of the famous Adolf and herself an accomplished pilot with 47 confirmed kills, had personally engaged American fighters over Tunisia and Sicily. Her combat reports, filed with meticulous Prussian precision, documented consistent German superiority in air-to-air combat. Engagement with 6 P-40s southeast of Tunis, March 14, 1943. American formation maintained rigid discipline but lacked individual initiative. When attacked from above, they attempted defensive turning rather than aggressive counterattack. Shot down 2 Warhawks with 150 rounds ammunition expenditure. Remaining Americans withdrew to low altitude where their aircraft performed marginally better but remained inferior to our Messerschmitts. The statistics supported this confidence. Throughout 1942 and early 1943, Luftwaffe fighter units maintained kill ratios of 3-to-1 or better against American aircraft in North Africa. Jagdgeschwader 53, operating from Sicily under the command of Oberstleutnant Helge Bennemann, had destroyed 89 American fighters while losing only 23 of their own aircraft. These numbers were celebrated in German aviation magazines and discussed proudly in mess halls across occupied Europe. But the contempt ran deeper than mere technical assessment. Nazi ideology had spent years depicting Americans as a mongrel race incapable of the warrior spirit needed for aerial combat. Reichsmarshal Goering himself had declared that the American pilot fights like a shopkeeper, cautiously, defensively, without the killer instinct that separates warriors from merchants.
"Ma'am," Blackstone said, attempting to maintain professional authority, "I'm going to need substantial additional documentation. 3 years of certified tax returns, audited bank statements from multiple institutions, references from previous commercial lenders, and verification letters from a certified public accounting firm. Something concrete to verify these extraordinary claims." Zara reached into her briefcase with deliberate, measured movements. Blackstone tensed instinctively. 18 years of banking had taught him to be cautious with agitated clients. But Zara only retrieved a smartphone, the latest iPhone Pro Max in platinum, clearly worth more than most people's monthly mortgage payments. She scrolled through her contacts with methodical precision, each movement calculated and purposeful. "Mr. Blackstone, before you request additional documentation, I have a specific question. Are you familiar with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and its enforcement mechanisms?" Blackstone paused, feeling a cold knot forming in his stomach. That was extraordinarily specific. Dangerously specific federal legislation that could destroy banking careers. It deals with discriminatory lending practices and the comprehensive legal framework that banking institutions must operate under. "Ma'am, are you threatening legal action against this institution?" "I'm simply asking if you understand the legal framework you're currently operating within while systematically denying my perfectly legitimate loan application." Isabella's live stream exploded past 18,000 viewers. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could possibly read. "This is 2024 and banks still doing this blatant discrimination? Get this racist banker fired immediately. Someone's recording everything for evidence. This is about to go viral." 15 minutes until the bank's 3 p.m. regional policy review meeting with corporate headquarters. Blackstone's desk phone rang with urgent persistence. The caller ID displayed, "Corporate Office Chicago, urgent priority." Derek's professional confidence was evaporating like morning mist. "Sir, other customers are becoming visibly uncomfortable. They paid premium fees for a pleasant, professional banking experience. This woman's confrontational behavior is making everyone extremely nervous." He was absolutely right. The elderly investment couple at the wealth management desk kept glancing over with obvious concern. The real estate developer at the commercial teller window had his phone out, clearly recording the entire interaction. The technology executive waiting for his private banking appointment was live streaming to his LinkedIn followers. The tension in the traditionally serene lobby was becoming suffocating. "Ma'am," Blackstone said with forced professional calm, I'm going to respectfully ask you to leave the premises voluntarily. We can certainly continue this discussion when you have proper documentation from a certified accounting firm and appropriate business references. No. The single word cut through the marble lobby like a precision blade. Blackstone had heard that particular tone from clients who eventually ended up banned from the premises and reported to banking security networks. I beg your pardon? I said no, Mr. Blackstone. I'm not leaving these premises. I'm not withdrawing my perfectly legitimate loan application. I'm staying in this lobby until my loan is properly processed according to federal banking regulations and anti-discrimination laws. Derek's face flushed bright red with embarrassment and rage. That's absolutely it. I'm calling building security immediately. You're trespassing on private commercial property. 14 minutes until the crucial policy meeting. Derek, make that call right now, Blackstone commanded. He'd had enough of this disruption. This client was clearly unstable, possibly planning some kind of social media publicity stunt, or worse. Zara checked her Audemars Piguet watch, a timepiece worth more than Derek's annual salary, including bonuses. Mr. Blackstone, before you escalate this situation further, I have one simple question. Are you familiar with who actually owns Premier Trust Bank? Blackstone paused, confused by the seemingly random inquiry. That was an extraordinarily odd question, very specific and oddly threatening corporate ownership. We're owned by Sterling Capital Group, one of the largest financial holding companies in North America. Why does our corporate ownership structure matter to your loan application? Just curious about the exact corporate hierarchy you're operating within. Isabella's live stream had reached 32,000 viewers. The comments were a blur of outrage and anticipation. This is absolutely insane. Banking discrimination happening in real time. Someone's about to get completely destroyed. Plot twist coming. 13 minutes until the meeting that could determine Blackstone's career trajectory. Blackstone's phone buzzed again with increasing urgency. This time, the caller ID showed Sterling Capital Executive Office Emergency Priority Alert. Zara leaned back in her chair, folding her perfectly manicured hands in her lap with supreme confidence. You should probably answer that call, Mr. Blackstone. I have a strong feeling it's going to fundamentally change everything about this entire situation. The lobby fell into an eerie silence. Even the usual background noise of financial transactions seemed to pause. Isabella's livestream viewer count continued climbing toward 40,000 as viewers shared the stream across every social media platform. Building security guard Captain Rodriguez approached with professional caution, hand resting on his radio. Mr. Blackstone, you requested assistance. Yes, we need this individual removed from the premises immediately. She's been disruptive for over an hour and is now refusing to leave voluntarily. Rodriguez studied Zara carefully. She appeared calm, well-dressed, non-threatening. Nothing suggested immediate danger. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. You're being asked to leave private property. I'm a potential customer conducting legitimate business with a valid loan application. I'm not going anywhere until this application is processed fairly. Rodriguez looked between Blackstone, Derek, and the growing crowd of onlookers. Sir, what specific laws has she broken? Trespassing, disrupting business operations, creating a hostile environment for other customers. Zara smiled again, that same unsettling smile that made everyone's confidence waver. Captain Rodriguez, before you escort me anywhere, you might want to know that this entire interaction is being live-streamed to 40,000 viewers and counting. Are you comfortable being featured in a potential civil rights violation video? Rodriguez hesitated. Civil rights violations meant federal investigations, career destruction, personal lawsuits. Blackstone's phone continued ringing with desperate persistence. Answer your phone, Mr. Blackstone. Trust me, you really want to take this call. The tension in the lobby was now unbearable. Every customer, every employee, every person within hearing distance was focused on this confrontation.
Isabella's viewer count hit 55,000 as major news outlets began reaching out for licensing rights to the footage. "This is harassment," Derek declared loudly. "We have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason." "Actually," Zara said, reaching into her briefcase again, "let me clarify something about those rights under federal banking law." She withdrew a levered document folder, expensive and embossed with a logo most people wouldn't recognize, but banking professionals should. "Ma'am, no sudden movements," Rodriguez warned, though his voice lacked conviction. "I'm simply retrieving documentation that you've repeatedly requested," Zara said with perfect calm. 12 minutes until the policy meeting that could change everything. Blackstone's radio crackled with static. "Mr. Blackstone, this is corporate emergency response. We're monitoring social media. Your location has 50,000 live viewers. Handled this situation extremely carefully and quietly." 50,000 people watching his every decision. Blackstone felt his 18-year career crumbling in real time. But Derek had never been wrong about problematic clients before. Never. His instincts had saved the bank millions in bad loans over the years. "What documentation could you possibly have that we haven't already reviewed?" Derek demanded. Zara opened the folder with deliberate precision. "The kind that explains why forcibly removing me would end all of your careers and cost this institution hundreds of millions in federal penalties." Derek's voice rose to near hysteria. "She's been threatening us this entire time. She won't show proper credentials. Look at her. Does she honestly look like she belongs in our commercial lending division?" "Ma'am," Rodriguez said carefully, "what specific threats did she make?" "She said there would be consequences. She keeps checking that expensive watch like she's timing something. She's obviously planning some kind of disruption." Isabella's viewer count hit 55,000. Major news outlets were sliding into her DMs. Her phone buzzed constantly with interview requests from CNN, Fox Business, and local Chicago stations. 11 minutes until the meeting. Blackstone made his decision. "Captain Rodriguez, remove her immediately. 55,000 customers can't be held hostage by one disruptive individual." Rodriguez stepped forward reluctantly. "Ma'am, stand up slowly and come with me." Zara didn't move. Instead, she asked quietly, "Mr. Blackstone, how long have you been working for Premier Trust Bank?" 18 years. "That's completely irrelevant." "Captain Rodriguez, how long have you worked building security?" 12 years. "Why does that matter?" "Because in 30 seconds, you'll both need to explain to your supervisors why you detained the wrong person." Blackstone's radio erupted with static. "Mr. Blackstone, emergency communication. We have a developing situation. Stand by for executive-level instructions. Do not proceed with customer removal until further notice." Executive-level instructions. That meant corporate headquarters. That meant people Blackstone had never met but who controlled his entire professional existence. "Ma'am, you're still under suspicion for trespassing." 10 minutes until departure. Zara finally stood. The entire lobby held its collective breath. Every phone focused on her. Every camera captured this moment. "Captain Rodriguez, 20 years from now, you'll train new security personnel about this moment, about the critical importance of asking the right questions before taking action based on assumptions." She reached into her briefcase with deliberate slowness. This time, no one attempted to stop her. Zara withdrew a leather document folder, expensive and embossed with a corporate logo that made Rodriguez's eyes widen in recognition.
"Before you arrest me," she said calmly, "perhaps you should see my actual identification." Rodriguez extended his hand reluctantly, his training telling him something was very wrong. Zara handed him a business card. Rodriguez read it. His face went completely white. He showed Blackstone, whose eyes widened in absolute shock and terror. "What does it say?" Derek demanded, his voice cracking with desperation. Rodriguez's whisper was barely audible over the lobby's sudden silence. "Zara Montgomery, Chief Executive Officer and majority shareholder, Sterling Capital Group. Not just an employee, not just a board member,
Chief Executive Officer and majority shareholder, the person who literally owned the company that owned Premier Trust Bank. Derek's face crumpled. That can't be real. CEOs don't apply for commercial loans at branch locations. 9 minutes until the meeting that would now determine everyone's fate. Blackstone's radio crackled with a different voice, older, more authoritative, absolutely terrifying. Mr. Blackstone, this is Senior Vice President Patricia Henley from Sterling Capital Group. We are actively monitoring the situation at the Chicago location. Take no further action against the individual in question. Corporate is handling this matter directly. Senior Vice President. Blackstone had never spoken to anyone that high in the corporate hierarchy during his entire 18-year career. Zara sat back down, smoothing her suit jacket with supreme confidence. Mr. Blackstone, I believe you had some concerns about my documentation and creditworthiness. Blackstone felt 18 years of banking excellence evaporating before his eyes like morning fog. Ma'am, we had no way of knowing. The application didn't indicate what exactly? That I was qualified? That I was legitimate? That I belonged in your commercial lending division? The questions hung in the recycled air like accusatory storm clouds. Isabella's live stream reached 65,000 viewers. The comments were a blur of shock and vindication. CEO testing her own bank. They're completely fired. Justice served live. Screenshot everything for evidence. Rodriguez backed away slowly, his security protocols forgotten in the face of corporate hierarchy reality. Derek began hyperventilating as the weight of his recorded words crashed down on him like a financial avalanche. 8 minutes until the meeting that would change everything. But nobody was thinking about routine policy meetings anymore. The entire lobby was focused on the quiet woman who had just revealed herself to be one of the most powerful people in American banking. Zara checked her Audemars Piguet watch one final time. I believe we have some very important matters to discuss about lending practices, don't we, Mr. Blackstone? The implications hung in the marble lobby like a corporate sword of Damocles, waiting to fall. Silence crashed over the Chicago Millennium Financial Center like a physical force. Zara Montgomery, CEO and majority shareholder of Sterling Capital Group, sat calmly while 65,000 people watched Derek Chambers' professional world collapse in real time. Blackstone stared at the business card in Rodriguez's trembling hands. CEO. The words didn't compute in his 18-year banking experience. CEOs didn't walk into branch locations requesting commercial loans. They had private banking relationships, executive assistants, direct lines to board members. Ma'am, if you're the CEO of Sterling Capital Group, why didn't you identify yourself immediately upon arrival? Blackstone whispered, his voice barely audible over the lobby's tense silence. Zara looked up, and for the first time, something profound flickered in her eyes. Not anger, something deeper, more transformative. Mr. Blackstone, why should I have to prove who I am to obtain equal treatment in my own bank? The question hit like a sledgehammer against institutional assumptions. Blackstone realized with growing horror that he never questioned a white executive's credentials with such suspicion and hostility. We follow established protocols. Whose protocols suggest that black women in business suits are inherently suspicious? Whose training manual says successful African Americans are probably fraudulent? Derek's sobbing intensified as the reality crushed him. This wasn't just a customer service failure. This was a federal civil rights incident recorded live, permanently documented, and witnessed by thousands. Isabella's live stream chat exploded past 75,000 viewers. She said it, calling out the racism directly. This is actual history. Banking discrimination exposed live. Zara reached for her tablet, but this time her hands weren't completely steady. The calm facade was revealing cracks of genuine emotion beneath. Captain Rodriguez, Zara said carefully. In your 12 years of security work, how many white executives have you been asked to forcibly remove for conducting legitimate business? Ma'am, that's how many? The exact number. None. How many black business owners? Rodriguez couldn't answer. The mathematics of institutional bias were undeniable and devastating. Zara tapped her tablet screen. A new display appeared, not a corporate organizational chart, but a live video conference call. The Sterling Capital Group boardroom materialized with 8 executives staring directly into the camera from the company's Manhattan headquarters. Zara, a distinguished woman's voice emerged from the tablet. We're monitoring the live stream coverage. Are you physically safe? The entire lobby's blood pressure collectively spiked. This wasn't just any CEO. This was someone the other Sterling Capital executives called by her first name. Someone they were genuinely worried about. Someone with enough power to make executive teams nervous. I'm perfectly fine, Patricia, Zara replied, though her voice carried an edge of controlled fury. Though I think Mr. Blackstone and his team need to explain their lending practices to our board of directors. Blackstone realized with absolute terror that the entire Sterling Capital Group executive team was watching this discrimination unfold in real time through social media. Mr. Blackstone, this is Patricia Henley, Senior Vice President of Operations for Sterling Capital Group. Would you care to explain why our CEO is being treated like a potential criminal in our own subsidiary bank? Not just CEO, their CEO. The person who literally owned the building, the computers, the marble floors, every pen and paper clip in the entire facility. Blackstone felt his knees buckle as 18 years of career advancement evaporated instantly. Derek collapsed into a customer chair, hyperventilating as the magnitude of his recorded statements crashed over him like a tsunami of career destruction. Rodriguez actually dropped his radio, the device clattering across the marble floor in the deathly silence. "Ma'am, we had no identification indicating," Blackstone stammered desperately. "You had no identification indicating what exactly?" Another voice from the tablet. Older, male, absolutely authoritative. "This is Chairman Robert Sterling. I want a precise explanation of why our CEO was subjected to discriminatory treatment in our own subsidiary bank." Chairman of the board, the founder's son. Blackstone was now being personally addressed by corporate royalty he'd only seen in annual reports and company newsletters. Isabella's viewer count exploded past 90,000 as news outlets began broadcasting her stream directly on television. Banking discrimination was trending globally across every social media platform. Zara turned the tablet toward Derek, whose face had gone gray with shock and terror. "Mr. Chambers, would you like to explain to Chairman Sterling what you meant by people like me don't qualify for substantial commercial loans?" Derek couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process the reality that he'd discriminated against the literal owner of the company on live television. "Sir," Rodriguez found his voice with tremendous effort, "we were responding to employee reports of a disruptive customer causing problems." "Captain Rodriguez," Chairman Sterling's voice cut through the lobby like a precision instrument. "We have footage from multiple angles and social media platforms. Ms. Montgomery was sitting quietly reviewing business documents. What exactly was disruptive about her professional behavior?" Derek whispered. The loan amount seemed unrealistic for someone of her background. "Her background?" Patricia Henley's voice carried deadly precision. "You mean her background as CEO of a $47 billion financial holding company? Her background with dual MBA degrees from Wharton and Harvard? Her background as Forbes Financial Executive of the Year for 3 consecutive years?" The silence was deafening. Every person in the lobby understood they were witnessing career suicide in real time. Zara tapped the tablet again, revealing a different screen. internal Sterling Capital communications displaying real-time crisis management protocols. Ladies and gentlemen, Zara addressed the entire lobby, her voice carrying to customers pretending not to watch. What you're witnessing is how quickly institutional bias becomes federal lawsuits, how discrimination becomes headline news, how unconscious prejudice becomes stock price disasters. Isabella's phone showed 100,000 live viewers as major networks interrupted regular programming for breaking news coverage. Blackstone's radio crackled with desperate urgency. "Mr. Blackstone, this is emergency corporate response. We have news helicopters requesting permission to land. The Federal Reserve is demanding immediate incident reports. Complete damage control protocols immediately." News helicopters, Federal Reserve investigations. This was no longer a branch banking incident. It was a national financial discrimination story. "Chairman Sterling," Zara's voice carried absolute authority, "you will note that Mr. Blackstone authorized discriminatory treatment. Mr. Chambers made explicitly biased statements. Captain Rodriguez prepared to forcibly remove a customer conducting legitimate business." "Ms. Montgomery," Chairman Sterling replied formally, "upon your recommendation, what corrective actions should Sterling Capital Group implement immediately?" Zara closed the tablet, cutting the executive connection, but their presence lingered like corporate smoke signals. "Now," Zara said, standing slowly and commanding every person's attention, "let me show you something else." She opened her briefcase wider, revealing contents that made everyone's blood run cold. Legal documents, marked Federal Banking Discrimination Class Action Template, financial reports analyzing institutional bias impact on bank profitability, and training materials titled Unconscious Prejudice in Commercial Lending Practices. "I didn't visit this branch by accident," Zara said with quiet intensity. "Sterling Capital Group has received 73 discrimination complaints across our subsidiary banks this quarter alone, 73 individual incidents of bias affecting minority business owners." The words hit like financial lightning. This was planned, orchestrated, a systematic investigation. You planned this entire situation?" Blackstone asked, his voice breaking with despair. "I planned to conduct legitimate business at my own bank. Your team planned the discrimination response." Isabella's live stream reached 110,000 viewers as comments flooded faster than technology could process. "CEO testing her own bank? They fell into the trap completely. This is brilliant. Banking industry about to change forever." Zara pulled out her phone, displaying a draft press release titled Sterling Capital Group announces revolutionary anti-discrimination initiative following CEO's personal experience with institutional bias. This press release will be distributed in 20 minutes. It details mandatory bias elimination training for all employees, third-party discrimination auditing systems, and a $50 million settlement fund for affected minority business owners. She looked directly at Derek, whose hyperventilation had become medical emergency level. "Mr. Chambers, your assumptions just cost Sterling Capital Group $50 million in remediation funding." Derek's sobbing intensified as he realized his words had triggered the largest banking discrimination settlement in Illinois history. "But," Zara continued, "they also just purchased us the opportunity to become the first major financial institution in America with a zero-tolerance discrimination policy backed by real consequences and systematic enforcement." Blackstone found his voice through sheer desperation. "Ma'am, what happens to our careers? What happens to our families?" Zara studied him with the calculating precision of a Fortune 500 executive. "That depends, Mr. Blackstone, on whether you choose to learn from this experience or attempt to deny its significance." She sat back down, opened her laptop, and began typing with corporate efficiency. "I'm documenting every word, every assumption, every moment of institutional bias that occurred here today.
This interaction will become mandatory training material for every Sterling Capital Group employee and every subsidiary bank across the nation. Rodriguez backed toward the exit, understanding his security career was effectively over. Captain Rodriguez, you're not dismissed. Your experience will be crucial for developing new security protocols that distinguish between actual threats and unconscious prejudice. Ma'am, I don't understand. You're not being fired, Captain. You're being retrained. Your honest mistake will help prevent thousands of future discrimination incidents across our entire corporate network. The unexpected mercy caught Rodriguez completely off guard. Zara made one final phone call, her voice carrying corporate authority. Legal Department, this is Zara Montgomery. Execute the discrimination remediation protocol immediately. Full implementation across all subsidiary institutions. Schedule emergency meetings with the NAACP, Urban League, and Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. We're going to transform the entire banking industry. Isabella's live stream peaked at 125,000 viewers as evening news programs began featuring her live stream as breaking news. Mr. Blackstone, Mr. Chambers, Zara addressed them directly. You have a choice to make. Participate in our transformation initiative as living examples of how good people can perpetuate harmful systems, or face federal discrimination charges and permanent industry blacklisting. Derek's voice cracked. What kind of participation? Full accountability, public acknowledgement of bias. 12 months traveling to Sterling Capital Group locations, sharing your story, demonstrating to employees exactly how unconscious prejudice operates in daily banking practices. You want us to humiliate ourselves nationally? I want you to help prevent other business owners from experiencing what I experienced today. Your shame can become someone else's salvation. The banking center had emptied except for essential personnel, but Isabella's live stream continued broadcasting to an audience that now included major news networks, civil rights organizations, and federal banking regulators. Derek looked at Blackstone, both men understanding their careers had ended and potentially begun simultaneously. Ma'am, I have a daughter who wants to start her own business someday. I don't want her to face what I put you through today. Then help us make sure she doesn't, Mr. Chambers. 6 hours later, Sterling Capital Group's stock price had dropped 12% before recovering when markets responded positively to the company's proactive discrimination response. 1 month later, the Montgomery Protocol became federal banking policy. 3 months later, Derek Chambers delivered his 47th presentation on unconscious bias to a room full of banking executives, his daughter watching proudly from the audience. 6 months later, Sterling Capital Group reported the highest customer satisfaction ratings in the industry and became the preferred bank for minority-owned businesses nationwide. Zara Montgomery returned to her Chicago office, carrying the weight of systemic change on her shoulders, knowing that one afternoon of documented discrimination had transformed an entire industry. The test was complete. The real work of equality had just begun. Sometimes justice arrives in marble lobbies when courage meets documentation and power chooses transformation over retaliation.
Isabella Santos won a Pulitzer Prize for citizen journalism. Her live stream became required viewing in business schools across America. And Derek Chambers never again made assumptions about who belonged in a business setting. The revolution was live-streamed, documented, and permanently embedded in corporate policy. Change had arrived, one discriminatory assumption at a time.